Hello everyone and welcome to our second video doing our personal top 20 favourite games of all time.
Woo! I was like somewhat scared, somewhat excited.
This is the important one. So obviously we do our podcast where we're working out our top however long we go on for games, which is our mutual games, but we're always compromising. We're always, having to have games higher or lower than we'd personally want them to be. But this, we have full control over our personal lists. No settling, no arguing. This is our favorite games. Just to reiterate, we're not saying that these are what we consider the best 20 games. These are just our personal favorite games that either mean a lot to us or for whatever reason they tick all the right boxes. And, these are like an expression of our personality in video game form.
Nice. That's nice. I'm hoping to get another.
At some of those games.
I'm hoping to get another amplitude moment from this.
A few more shocks.
Yeah, no, I like that amplitude. It was so nice to talk about something that we used to do together.
Yeah. I think there could be some here. So obviously, the higher we get to the list, it just generally is more exciting because we're getting to our favorite ones. But we are today going to be doing 15 to 11. Yep. Which means that there might still be a few surprises, maybe games that we personally love, but we haven't spoke about much with the other person. So yeah, should be a lot of fun. So do you want to go first and let everyone know your 15th favorite game?
Yes. So weirdly, 15 to 11, all of mine except for one are sequels, which is weird. But the number 15 is Metal Gear Solid 2.
Ah.
It's just a stone cold classic at this point. Still looks pretty good today. PS2 game, can't remember when it came out. I don't really know what needs to be said. Like, stealth game, top-down view, pretty old school, but probably formed more of my personality than I'm willing to admit. And
so I was curious. So I assumed Metal Gear Solid would end up on the list.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure which one it would be. But I remember you mentioning after our Death Stranding episode saying that your opinion of Hideo Kojima had kind of dropped a little bit. So I didn't know, has your opinion of Metal Gear Solid dropped over the years?
I think it's more of a nostalgia pick. I don't know if I could play it again today with the same amount of fun as I used to play, like repeatedly go through it. I feel like it might be a bit more frustrating today, but it just meant so much to me when it came out. And I played it so many times. And we'd know every single line. And we'd like talk about it all the time. And there was, this is back before the internet was probably even a thing. So the secrets and stuff were like, someone would tell you, and that'd be the first time you'd ever heard about something that was in the game. Yeah. It was just unbelievable. And except for the controls, it probably hasn't even aged that much.
I think the dialogue and the amount of codec calls.
Yeah. So that was what we talked about. Yeah. In Death Stranding.
Yeah. I bet that's aged to the point where even for him now, a lot of that stuff would be at least cutscenes rather than two little green faces.
Yeah, so I can't remember what I watched with Kojima, but he tried to cancel the game himself because of 9/11.
Yeah, they changed the whole ending.
Yeah, he was like, my game is too close to reality at this point and it needs to go. And that, being too close to reality is something that kind of goes through the whole game. And I think that's partly why I loved it so much as a kid, because I was like, I've never seen anything like this. That, is so close to the surface. And the way the game interacts with you as a player in real life. And, the fact that it's breaking the fourth wall, but almost to like a level beyond anything. Maybe even after it's come out. It's crazy the stuff that happens in this game. Like, characters in the game for 15 hours will be, a regular secret agent character, and then they'll be like, oh, well, you are playing a game. But with no fanfare. And I remember as a kid, that moment, I was like, oh my God, like, they know who I am.
It's even scary because they're like, you've been playing too much, like, put the game down. Yeah, they're like shouting at you.
They'll be like, you need to reset the console, do it now. And you'll be like, am I supposed to do it? Like, I don't know what's happening. But then, like, the next time you speak to them, they'll be back to normal. Like,
yeah, or sometimes their faces will be like all messed up.
Yeah. And like that, all of that just really hit me as a impressionable teenager. And one of my dearest gaming memories is also associated to this game. So my friend James, or our friend James, I don't know if he listens to this show, but I brought MGS2 to his house And he finished it in one sitting. So we were like young, like, we could do things like that without getting back pain. And at the end, his mind was so blown by the end, that bit where the character picks up the dog tags and they have his name, you type your name in and your date of birth.
Yeah.
He looked at me and he was like, they're my dog tags. Like, I've never forgotten that. Like, I literally love that so much. He was so like, to see someone whose mind was being blown like that for the first time, because he didn't even he had a GameCube and that was it. Like, he didn't even own any other consoles. So he'd never even seen like an Xbox or anything, or a PS2. So he was just like, had his mind melted by it. And like, man, yeah, I think definitely the monologuing and all that is probably aged really badly, but it just really hit me.
And you can skip through it. I mean, on your first playthrough, it'd be hard to skip through it and not understand, that's where a lot of the stories is being told.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was probably planting the seeds for my love of immersive sims, because it's a really system-based game. Like, one of the famous things is if you shoot over like the cup of ice, the ice will like really gradually melt over time, and like the way that everything kind of just worked the way you'd expect it to, and the amount of like almost like Easter eggs, hidden things. Like, there's a thing that allows you to like hear people through walls, and the amount of hidden places where you can hear things you wouldn't normally hear. And
you're supposed to use it just once, aren't you? You have one mission that uses it
to find a heartbeat, a pacemaker,
and then you can like aim it at like two people talking or this pacemaker. But then if you aim it to the left, you hear like a guy in the toilet like having the worst time of his life, or like there's
but there are all other places in the game as well.
So there's this bit where this character's walking along an oil fence and you have to snipe. And if you aim the directional microphone at the guy you're with, he's like saying some creepy 2003 stuff, but it doesn't matter about that. But you aim it at the girl on the oil fence, every time she walks behind one of the poles, she talks to someone from a different country. It's just like stuff like that like you go to school and talk about it, and then you'd be like, nah, there's no way. And then you go home and do it, and it's like, just so crazy. And in systems based, like you could knock someone out with a trank gun, and then you could wake them up using the cooling spray. Like, it's just stuff like that at the time you'd never...
And loads of stuff, like obviously you could hide in a box. And I remember it was ages after I finished the game, I found out like if you're in a box and someone recognizes you, that the box shouldn't be there, and the guard picks it up. As they're picking it up, you can run around behind them because their box is blocking their view of you moving around. And then you could like choke them out or whatever. And that's for like, I mean, Deus Ex, I'm probably playing at a similar time where, it had a similar stuff. And a lot of my favorite games are those types of games where everything just works and you're like playing in this sandbox. And that was one of the first ones. And then also just the production values, like the cutscenes, like the voice acting. Like, it doesn't stand out now, but at the day, like, there weren't games of like that felt of that scale. It felt like an elite game.
Yeah. And I remember there's so many cutscenes in it. I remember playing it in my room as a kid, and my mum walked past the door and she was like, do you even play video games anymore, or do you just watch them? And I was like, I watch them.
To be fair, Kai said a similar thing to me for Death Stranding. I think I was like, oh, I'm going to start it. And then like they came in and I was like watching a cutscene, and then they went and like made tea, went upstairs, whatever. They come back and I'm just still sitting here. They're like, you're having fun? I was like, well, I've not played much yet, but it seems cool.
One other thing on that box, just to talk about the cardboard box. Did you know that if you put it on in the parcel room, you'll get delivered?
Oh yeah, but it depends which box you have.
Yeah. So you have like
there's
a food
like a Zone
box
of
on,
Enders box, isn't there?
Yeah. But like the food box, the orange one, you'll get delivered to the like kitchen. And like it's just clever.
Yeah. And there's like, and we could, so all this stuff sounds really cool. We could sit here for several hours just listing off things like that. Which in any other game, like, even just like, if you look up when you're outside on like the oil rig things on the rigs, and then like the birds poo on your face.
Yeah.
Like that was like so kind of, obviously it's like stupid, but like stuff like that was like the fact that that's like for everything you think of just works. It was incredible.
No, I mean, I don't know what the industry influence was, but for me personally, it was like, it might even be like the first game I properly like really loved. Might have even been MGS2, because obviously that kind of hit when I probably started playing it when I was about 12 or 13, so it was really
there was my wallpaper for our computer at home, for the family computer was that.
Well, I loved it. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, it's just a shame that like the way the industry's developed is like, it's now just about graphics and like, and pure simplified gameplay, and like, it's a shame that like we haven't progressed on from that really. Like there's been other games that do similar, but like I wish that was the constant evolution, was people trying to, at least in some genres, step up on that. But now if you play like a modern shooter or stealth game or third person game, like they're not attempting any of that stuff. And I know it's not easy, but like I wish when there was like the big budget game coming out, like the next Call of Duty or Halo or whatever it is, the next big one, they were trying to push that forward because they're the only ones that can, but there isn't much of an attempt. It's kind of being pushed to the side, and it is, games like Dishonored and Prey and Deus Ex that are the ones that are trying to continue that on.
Yeah, I think maybe, it just doesn't show very well. Like, systems don't make an exciting trailer, do they? Like Amazing Graphics does, so...
Yeah, and it's hard.
Yeah. I had something else I was going to say about Metal Gear then.
Yeah, sorry.
No. Oh, do you know what? I loved it so much that I pretty much didn't play MGS3 for years because I was like, no, it's not the same. Like, it just doesn't. I remember you saying to me, like, you need to play MGS3, it's so good. And you lent it to me. And I played like an hour of it and I was like, no. I want my like tech world and like Raiden and all that.
Yeah. I like 3. I do prefer 2. In fact, Metal Gear Solid 2 is my 15th favourite game of all time.
Hey, we got a match. We got an actual bang-on match. Wow.
Yeah, both at number 15.
Nice. Well, it's probably good we talked about it for a little while then.
Yeah, that's why I kept really trying to get my points in as well. Yeah. I was like, well, that's my time to chat.
I even played, did you play much of Substance?
Yeah, like with something like the VR missions, whatever, like the virtual missions and stuff. And
I've just remembered. Can I just quickly show something? You can cut this out. Hang on. I can't find it, but I have a copy of MGS2 Substance signed by Kojima, and I can't find
it. Did he sign it like for you?
He signed it for me, and he drew a picture of my ex-girlfriend on the cover. Oh, the artist Yoji Shinkawa was there, and he drew a picture of her on the cover. Let me look for it for one more minute, and then I'll give up. Absolutely trashed my room trying to find this, but MGS2 Substance signed by Kojima's down here. And this is Yoji Shinkawa, who did like all the famous artwork. And my girlfriend at the time used to have a really blunt fringe. And Kojima like saw us both and he was like, oh, like very cool, because I had a Foxhound t-shirt on. And then Shinkawa drew a picture of my girlfriend so cool. on the cover. And I also have the same for the special edition of MGS3.
Of the one you hate.
The big box version, Subsistence, I have as well.
Why is the box big? Is it just...
Because...
there's probably 2 discs in there, or is there... Oh, 3 discs.
3 discs, and a special manual as well with the cool artwork on it.
Yeah, because the number 2 was 2 discs, wasn't it? I remember. So I remember you could also, like, in all the cutscenes, you could change, like, the character models and, like, put them as, like, really, like old ladies, like as ninjas and stuff. Was really
so that's what I was going to talk about actually. Is on Substance. Did you play any of the extra Snake Tales or skateboarding?
Oh yeah, on the rig.
The Snake Tales. Do you remember the one with the giant guard? He's like swimming around the. It's like a Godzilla story.
And, I would have played all of it. I would have rinsed its content, but I can't remember.
Yeah, just really quickly. There's a guard swimming around the edge of the base, and you go out onto any of the walkways and like knock. And he's like, what's that noise? Like comes out and he's got Godzilla's like spines down his back and on his head. Yeah. And he can like shoot lasers out of his mouth. And you have to fight him as Snake in like a VR like city, like the VR missions. They made like a whole city and you're like running around fighting him. It was really cool.
Cool. Yeah. Back when games used to be fun and we were old and cynical.
And it wasn't DLC, it just came with the game.
Right then, so that was both of ours 15. So what is your 14? Let's see if we get another match.
We're not going to get another match on this one. Because number 14 is Metal Gear Online 2.
No way! No.
So Metal Gear Online 2 is the one that came with MGS4, not the one that came with MGS5.
Mm-hmm.
I had it on PS3 and it had a really difficult sign-up process. You had to sign up for a Konami ID.
I remember
PlayStation, and all that, and I just went through it all, and I literally loved the game so much that I maxed out, like max level, like 3 characters, which was like, this isn't like Call of Duty style leveling, like it's not fast, it takes a really long time. I bought all the DLC, and I played it all the way up until it stopped. So they turned the servers off. I played it all the way up to that day, and for some reason, that was an online shooter that just got its hooks in me, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And I actually wish it would come back because it was so good. So MGS5 had its own version, and it just wasn't the same. It was pretty fun, but it wasn't the same.
We played that a little bit with friend of the show Chris. We played it recently. It's quite fun. I have not played it enough to judge that mode, but I never played this one. I gave up during the sign up process. It was. I remember it was ridiculous because I don't even know how active it would have been then as well, because I got it quite late because I didn't have a PS3 for most of that generation. So I got it at the end and then was like blasting through all the Sony exclusives. And MGS4 was the first one I did, and I tried, and then I gave up and probably went back to Halo 3.
Yeah, the online, it just had loads of like you were saying with Quake. You know how the movement thing is like a bug, but you kind of you get used to it. Metal Gear Online had a lot of stuff like that. So one of the things you would do is when you dive forward, like say you want to get over a railing, rather than vaulting, if you dive, obviously it's quicker, but then when you land you're exposed. So what you do is as you dive, you'd snap the box on the cardboard box, so when you landed you'd be crouched. And it's just stuff like that like you don't, it's just weird things that like, when you're in it, you're like really in it because you learn all of these weird little tech, weird little quirks. And it had like stealth suits, but you could still see the gun. Like, so then what people would do is there was an emote where you'd salute. So people would do that because the gun would disappear, so you'd be completely invisible. Like, it was just cool. Like, it has and it also had a mode, which is going to sound very familiar. It was a ring. There were 16 players, and the ring would get smaller and then move around the map. And if you're outside the ring, you get damaged. And it was the last player alive wins. And now that's really popular. So. And
that would have been before the PUBG mod.
This would be like 2000
H1Z1 or anything.
2008, 2009.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, though, we wouldn't even say anyone's copied it because no one played it. So
no one played it.
No one played it.
It even had a context-sensitive ping system, so you could ping. If you ping like a gun, it would like do one thing. But then if you ping an enemy, it would do an alert sound. Like it had a lot of cool stuff in it.
I wonder how much the sign-up process hurt its numbers. Like, I wonder if you could just play it like any other game. Like, at the time I was about as tech savvy as you could be and hardcore gamer, and I was just like, it's not like I'm sure I could have done it, but I was like, this isn't worth my time.
Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, I just stuck with it, and then it was kind of my go-to online game for my entire time at uni. I've just played that. I didn't play. Everyone else was like moving on to Call of Duty and that, and I just was like, no, I was going to stick with Metal Gear Online. And eventually got plagued with hackers, and then it shut down about 6 months later. So
that's a shame.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying to you the other day. Like, this happens, like we're talking about Overwatch not being able to play it anymore, and I was like, it's just the way it goes. Sometimes you just don't get to play the games you like.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to moan, but it's like, I mean, let's be realistic. Like, these are businesses. What are they? Why would they keep it going? Like, it's just, I guess, enjoy it when you have it. That's been my most shocking one from you. I didn't see that coming. Really? Well, I suppose with uni we didn't really talk much, did we? So no, you have mentioned it before, and I know you'd played it, and we played, the number 5 one, and in that you mentioned the old one. So I knew you liked it, but I didn't know to this level. Yeah, it was just cool, and like all the stuff with Metal Gear with like the systems and weird, like that all translated onto online as well. So like if you use a smoke grenade, you could choose the color of it, and the colors of the smoke would change the characters' voices. So if you did a voice command from inside the smoke, you'd be like, "Where's my backup?" Like it's like it's just funny. That sounds cool. I definitely want to. Well, I guess when I'm editing this or you're editing this, I'll see the video footage of it because that's what I'm interested to see. Yeah. However, we're going to find video footage of this one. I'm sorry. Right then, so my number 14 now. I'll just mention, just because you have, I made a rule to myself, I'm only doing one game per franchise, just because I would have had loads of doubling up, and I think it would have made my list more boring. Yeah. So I guess this is the one that's going to have, this is going to be Halo or something. No, it's not. This one isn't. But it's just because you just did. That's what made me think of it. But yeah, this is one I'm sure you agree with. It's Left 4 Dead 2.
Oh, yes. Yes, what a game.
I'm guessing it's not on your list.
It's not, and neither's Team Fortress 2. But I wish it was. But yeah.
Well, I guess this will be your time. You can still give it your love here. I mean, obviously, super celebrated game, very influential, but in a weird case where I feel like there's loads of games that have spawned from it, but it's not like, oh, it started a trend and now everyone's involved and improved. Like I've not, like obviously nostalgia may be a part of it, but I've not played one that I've enjoyed more or I think has like, I feel like every game's trying to do a twist on it. And I always feel like the twist has never made it more fun than like the core experience.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I actually quite heavily prefer the first one to the second one.
Because of the new special infected?
I just like the first one's not as silly. And it's like the silliness comes from playing with your friends, whereas the second one, I feel like they went a bit too like Dead Rising mad with it, and it was a bit like I preferred the serious
like the
nature of the first
funfair level and the rock show and
like
stuff,
the guitar weapon and like whereas I preferred in the first one it was like you are in a really serious situation, but isn't it funny because you're with your mates?
Yeah, I mean I love the first. Like the reason I did the second one is just because with the second one they have all of the first one's levels in it.
Of course, yeah.
So it felt, and I do like the way they seem to add more. So they got like the AI director. And the idea is like if you're doing really well, they might make it more difficult or give you less health and armor and stuff. And I feel like in the first game that was never enough. And I feel like I mean I played it so much.
Same.
And I feel like after a while I would learn it so much and it kind of wouldn't even matter. And like we'd get through the levels on expert, which is very difficult, without too much trouble. And I feel like with the second one, sometimes they'd block off paths and stuff, and it'd be a bit more variable, which I thought was cool. Also, I think in the first game, like you'd get a gun and you'll just keep it the whole game and you'd never run out of ammo really. And I feel like even though it can be frustrating at the time, the second game limiting your ammo and forcing you to improvise and, I normally have shotguns, but I guess I'll use this hunting rifle for now just because I need something. Yeah. I think that makes it more exciting.
I do also, I mean, I love Left 4 Dead 2, don't get me wrong, but I do also prefer the gang in the first one.
I do.
Yeah. They're much.
I prefer the original game.
Yeah, I much prefer those crew. But yeah, I mean,
you're a Lewis guy, aren't you?
I am. And if I couldn't get him, I'd be Francis. I like Francis. Okay. But yeah, like those games, man. I remember I finished No Mercy on expert, the first campaign. And the first time I did it took me 5 hours. And like 4 of those hours were on the finale. Like getting up to that point. Was
when the tank arrives. It's the first of 2 tanks.
Yeah, just so fun. And also back then, you could play the versus mode and that was pretty fun too. I don't know if it would still be populated, but or it'd be full of people who are so good.
I never liked versus. I never got into versus. I always tried it. I always found that it would be very much like you'd go up against people or you'll discover yourself like, oh yeah, this is the place to go. Be a hunter. Wait at this place. This is the one place which is the best place to trap them. And I feel like it could, like the meta would get very stale because the levels wouldn't change much. And if there's like the good place to get them, that's where you're going to do it. Do it in the choke point, not in the open. So I always found I got bored of it. But replaying the campaign over and over again, never got bored of for some reason.
I guess it's because like I remember one of the meta things being that this was in Left 4 Dead 1, but it was one of the doors by the garage. You could break it if you all meleeed it, but you'd have to melee it for like probably 2 minutes straight.
Yeah.
So like things like that would really slow the game down. But yeah, man, like Left 4 Dead. It's just a shame that they didn't add to it,
Yeah, I'd love to see I'd love them to break their curse and make a trilogy of any of their franchises.
I think I'd prefer Left 4 Dead 2 DLC. I don't think I want to see a new game because I'll be like, you can buy this gun and you can buy this map, and I'll be like,
but like, what are the other things? Is like when the game came out, it wasn't even at the time that graphically impressive.
Yeah.
On the 360, but the way like all of the zombies, the way their physics worked, the way they fell over, like the fact that you could like shoot through walls and you'll get bullet holes, which was like an actual strategy, the light, like the shadows, like your torches, like casting realistic shadows. And like that is the stuff that I think matters way more, like throwing a petrol canister in the air and then like shooting it out the sky and like all of that stuff. Like I always found really impressive, and I feel like that's a lot of that stuff's what's been missing from like things like Back 4 Blood and like some of the more recent ones.
Yeah,
is they just don't feel as good. as weird and mushy as a description.
Yeah,
that is.
yeah. I remember at uni I got so deep into a Left 4 Dead game that I lived in a house of all boys, obviously, and it was like all four of us brought our computers down to the dinner table and played Left 4 Dead, and we did all the campaigns in a row. And I remember at the end of Dead Harvest, or is it the Harvest one?
That is one, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Dead Air is the one.
No, there's one in a Harvest.
Yeah.
So anyway, it doesn't matter. It was whichever one it is that ends with you jumping in a boat, and I was so deep into it that I was getting attacked. And it was like we're playing on like expert or advanced, and I turned to my mate who was playing as Bill, and I was like, "Bill, just leave me!" Like genuinely, like emotional about him trying to get away. And he looked at me and he was like, "Bill," like it was so funny.
You were so immersed.
Yeah, I was so immersed.
I think I mentioned on one of the I said about in Quake, if you had like a heartbeat sensor, yeah, Left 4 Dead would be another one with some serious spikes. Also, I just want to shout out the music. The music's great, and the way it's adaptive. If there's like a boomer, which is the big enemies like around the corner, it would go like boom, 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 like the music would change. And if you're on low health, your music would be different. So everyone kind of has a different soundtrack depending on what's going on in their game. You know, another thing that I wish more games did. I mean, there has been some games like Doom is another game that has done that really well. But yeah, fantastic game.
Tinykin does it.
It does. Yeah, it's more just where you are in the level.
It's still
but
cool,
yeah, that was one of the first things I messaged you about when I was playing that game, a recent game, Tinykin.
Oh, Left 4 Dead. What a game. Okay, right. Oh, my next one's not going to be as fun and nostalgic as that, I'm afraid. Still a good game though, because it's number 13 on my list. So it is Uncharted 2, which I think is the crown of the Uncharted series. For a while I thought it was 4, but the more I think back, 2 was kind of the best one.
Yeah, for me it would still be 4, but I understand why.
Yeah,
why
2,
you prefer 2.
Man, that was the real like, this is next gen moment. Was Uncharted 2. So like, considering Uncharted 2 was a PS3 game. So before that, you know, the PS2 was, well, there was the PS2, right? But then like you'd see Uncharted 2 and I was literally like, oh my God, like what is this series? I'd never even heard of Uncharted at that point when Uncharted 2 came out. And they showed that E3 trailer with on the rooftops with the helicopter.
Oh, the building getting destroyed like while you're in it.
Yeah, yeah. And I literally went out the next day and I bought Uncharted 1 and it was rubbish. But then I bought Uncharted 2. And yeah, that was another one of those games that I would just finish and then go back, play through it again, finish it just continuously. Like I loved all the characters. I loved the story. I even loved that weird Shambhala purple people that you fight at the end, all that. I loved all that.
I think we spoke about this recently. You know I don't like that.
Yeah, I know.
Is that why you said
I
even like that?
Yeah, I even love that. And the bad guy, like I can't remember his name, but like that Russian dude and like even all that, I like loved it. But it got to the point where like I was like quoting Uncharted 2 like we used to with MGS2 because I loved it so much. And then 3 was a real, I didn't enjoy 3. I feel like 3
I didn't
was
finish
a
3.
It was
I got
too
bored
long.
of the combat in 3. Like the combat sequences went on for too long, I think, in 3.
Yeah.
And 2 sometimes, but you'd forgive it.
yeah. It was a different time. But then, yeah, I feel like it's superseded Uncharted 4 because I don't really remember much of Uncharted 4. Even obviously I played it most recently.
I mean, there's specific like moments that I like. I think you didn't like some of the more open world stuff with the car, and I actually quite enjoyed that because it was like in the like I wouldn't want the whole game to be that, but in the context of the game, it was nice doing something a bit different and having a breather, and it gave them a chance to have some dialogue.
But it's kind of like a half step, isn't it? The
4.
open world. The open world's a bit of a half step. Like they're not quite doing it, and they're not quite not doing it.
No, but I think I think their best version of that is The Last of Us 2. I think in Seattle, like when you first get to Seattle, for me, that's the sweet spot of like just the right size. Everywhere you go, you discover something genuinely interesting, and you're not going to run into an NPC who's like, "I need 5 eggs," you know. Like it's all like worthwhile stuff. And I think the reason why it works so well in Last of Us is because like resources are precious, and like so your reward is like, oh, I got a thing to upgrade my gun and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas in like, you know, in Uncharted, it doesn't have that. Like resources isn't as important a thing. So I think an open world is like what you're going to discover is like collectibles for the platinum trophy. Like
treasures.
what are you going to get?
Treasures, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
great sound effect when you get them, though.
yeah, well, the first time actually playing Uncharted 2, I remember picking up a thing and it slides in at the side of the screen.
Yeah,
it's like, I was like,
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, just giant like face, like engraved face, like slides in.
Yeah,
terrifying.
A game full of moments, like the train level is obviously like iconic as well. The level of acting, I think is
and Harry,
the motion capture.
The guy, your little mate Harry, like the really weird, like he's so clearly a villain. Like my brother came over to play, he didn't have a PS3, so I was like, I'll come over and have a go at Uncharted 2. And as soon as he turned up and he's like, buy me a drink, sailor. Ben was like, how long till he betrays you? Like,
and it's so soon, isn't it? It's like 2 levels later.
yeah. And that had pretty fun online as well. That had online maps that were also set pieces. So they would, first half of the match, the map would be one way and then something would happen and then it would change. So like a tank would smash through.
No, wasn't that in 3? Wasn't that in 3?
No, that was in 2. That was in 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah.
No, great game. I'll be
game.
upfront here. Like Uncharted doesn't make my list, but like, yeah, I really enjoy those games. But I don't know. I feel like the climbing, there's too much climbing, and it's like zero stakes climbing, and then I generally start getting bored of a lot of the combat, and then I'm really, but I'm there for like the big set pieces, which I think like the set pieces in Uncharted, I think are better than any other set pieces, and they really prop it up. And then the characters are likable with good dialogue, but I don't rate the stories as a whole. So that's kind of like for everything that's amazing, there's for me personally something that holds it back, which is why it never reaches greatness level for me.
Maybe Uncharted 2 is the only one that I could remember the story and tell you what happens. I can't remember any other ones.
Yeah, and there's cool moments like all the bits like when you get like you get knocked out on the train and then you're in like that village in the snow and you're kind of lost everything. Like
with Tenzin,
that's a cool moment. Yeah,
the little Sherpa guy, love him.
Yeah,
and it's like really good bit when you're
caves and stuff,
when you're in the ice cave and there's like shape by the camera, and it's like you're looking out into the distance at Drake running around, and then the shape like moves. And it's like a Yeti, and it like moves, but it's like it looks like a rock in the foreground. And when it moved, I was like,
"Oh yeah, you follow it for a while, don't you?" Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
great game.
Yep. Right,
I'm just gonna fill up my water quick, and then
I haven't played that one.
What was it like? Where's my water? That Crocodile mobile game. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
And that's at number 40.
I just found this inside the Metal Gear box. It's from the event that I went to. Pretty cool. I saved it.
Make sure you store that carefully under your bed with your other prized possessions.
I don't have any other storage. Also, look at my copy of Amplitude. It's just so knackered. I think it's like a computer printed version.
Yeah.
And then inside,
that used to be. I think I gave that to you.
Did you?
Yeah,
it's like a computer printed box.
Yeah, that's mine. That's my one.
But inside is a SSX Tricky. Because I think your version of Amplitude was like a review copy, and you printed your own box. Is that how I've ended up with this?
Yeah, I think I printed that out.
Yeah, there you go. Still got it.
Because it was a really hard game to get. That's so funny.
Yeah,
I had to buy it again, and you yoinked it.
Did you write that yourself on the side?
Yeah, I think
it's
I think I
really low resolution.
That would have been me.
You're 13,
right?
Then.
So my number 13. This is another one just to set you up. Another game that I know I rate much more highly than you. Just like Inside.
What's this gonna be?
Journey.
Journey.
Yeah, there we go. That says enough.
Yeah, I finished it. Just So
I'll describe what it is because I think it's old enough that there is some people that might not know. Best way to describe it is you're kind of a character. You basically can almost just see their cloth and their legs going through a desert. It's got really like nice like movement. Like you can kind of slide down like sand dunes. You have like a scarf flowing behind you. You can collect things that make your scarf grow longer as you go. Really beautiful soundtrack. I think it was one of the first soundtracks to win a BAFTA, I think, as far as I know.
Other than Harry Potter.
Video game. Oh, did that win a BAFTA?
Yeah, we talked about it in the episode.
Oh, but there was some, maybe it wasn't about it, but there's some award that it won, that it was the first video game to win some music award. Might not have been a BAFTA. I mean, it won a whole bunch of awards. But yeah, you're going through this journey. You're traveling through almost like a post-apocalyptic landscape. There's like machines that are like in certain bits are like hunting you that you need to avoid. But it's generally not a challenging game. It's kind of quite simple platforming. But one of the cool twists about it is that it's I don't know, is it a Strand game? What's the true definition of
I guess it is a
Strand
game. Yeah, I guess it is kind of Dark Souls-y, not proper co-op, but there is co-op.
Yeah, I guess almost a level above that. So basically, as you're going, you can suddenly, and like, so I didn't know about this when I started playing, which I think is the best way to be playing it. So I was going through, and then suddenly you see another character who kind of looks like you. Maybe they have a longer scarf than you, maybe they don't. And then you kind of go up to them, and there's a button you can use to call out to them. And then like, often like I went up to someone and I'd call out and they'd call back. And then you kind of just naturally go around together. And I'm like, is this an AI character? Are they real? And I was like, oh, they're moving too good. I was like, I think this is a real person, but you don't know who they are or anything. And you just naturally go together, even though there's no real advantage of going round together. And basically what it will do is while you're playing, it'll be in the background matching you up with someone and then seamlessly put them into your world or you're in their world. I mean, it's kind of cool the way it doesn't even really matter.
Cool, yeah.
And then you're going through and then you might think you played through this whole game with one person, but at the end it'll be like, these are all of the people you met, and it'll be like 7 different people.
Okay, I didn't know. I actually told you their names.
Yeah, it just says their PSN name at the end, and I think that is like so smart. And then it created a community of people. So there's like, as I say, these things you find to make your scarf longer. And then there's a big community of people that had like found them all and would basically go back through and just help out new players. And so you'd always tell because they'd have a really long scarf early on, and they'd keep playing through the game just to either like help people if they're lost or show them where like hidden things are. But you can never talk to them, no voice chat. And like if it did, it would ruin it because it's all kind of like mystical and magical. And then the way the game ends, like you're kind of really struggling to climb up and you're freezing, and then like, you know, you think you're not going to make it, but then eventually you kind of get the power to basically fly, and the music's all swelling and you're flying up to like this top of the mountain, and then it kind of just ends, and you're like, oh, is that the ending? What happens? But then you're like, oh yeah, the game's called Journey. It's not about the destination, it's the journey. As much as like, as cliche as that sounds, like, you know, with no cynicism here, like I think it's lovely. And like for when it came out for like mid PS3,
that was PS3 as well. Yeah.
Like I feel like that kind of stuff might not be as novel now, but like
it was at the time. It was
for an indie game. I know it was published by Sony, made by that game company, but for like an indie game to have that production value and then to have all of that online stuff work so seamless, and it looked amazing. The lighting, like the way it glint off like the red sand was beautiful.
That's the bit I think of, is the bit where you slide down that, like it's sliding around a spiral or something. There's like an archway.
Yeah, you can. The camera goes side on, and then you see the sun in the distance.
Yeah, that's the bit I think of when I think of that game.
Okay, right, your turn. Like, tear into it then.
Why
is this the worst game?
It's not the worst game ever. It's just sort of one of those games that's like, oh yeah, it was lovely, and then you turn it off and then never think of it again.
Yeah,
like lots of games look lovely.
I think about it all the time in terms of like, and I feel like this has become like something that I keep saying, but like, they had the thing they wanted to do, and like it's very hard to think of what they could have done to do it better for what they were trying to do. I think it's just the right length, it's the right level of difficulty for where it's you know, almost anyone with any gaming experience could play and could complete it. Like, even though it's you know, you're basically just moving and jumping, the levels are super varied. Sometimes you're in like a dark cave and it's a bit spooky and you're being chased. Sometimes it's just, you know, beautiful and sunshine and you just see a tower and you're trying to make your way to it and platform up. I think it's fantastic. And then the animations and the flowing cloak and the way you jump and you kind of spin as you jump.
It kind of also started a genre, really, didn't it? It kind of, I feel like they managed to nail the art game by being like, we're going to make an art game, but you actually play as a character. And that's kind of why people got on board. Like, they made Flower before that, which was like, you just play as the wind. You remember?
Yeah, I do like that game.
Yeah, but I feel like the fact that they give you a little character, it made a lot more people like actually pay attention to it. And there's been so many copycats as well since then.
Yeah, but I don't know if any's done it better than I've played of. Like, there's like Abzu and stuff.
Abzu is the one I thought of, and I was like,
when I was playing Abzu the whole time, I was like, like it's great, it's lovely, like the music's good, it's very pretty, but like I'm just seeing the influence too strong for Journey here, and I love Journey so much it almost makes me like a little bit annoyed about Abzu, despite it being a great game in its own right.
And they've made a new game, haven't they, on the iPhone?
Yeah, Sky.
You played that?
No, it's so apparently they're bringing it to consoles.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's going to be on Switch and stuff, and it's free to play. And I would rather wait. I'd rather pay and not have microtransactions.
I think it's going to be free to play on consoles, isn't it?
And if they've changed their mind, it will be. But they've said it's going to be paid.
Okay. I wonder what the microtransactions even are. Is it like scarf length?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but like. Even knowing they're there, like it annoys me before even playing it. So I'm, I'm like thinking about that Journey experience and imagining it like at any point it's wanting me to go to the PlayStation store in the middle of that like emotional experience. I'm like, nope. So I'm looking forward to it. Apparently it's really good and it's got a big community as well. Like it's not spoken about.
Yeah.
A lot of people do play it. Apparently on the Apple TV is a great way to play it. You can play it with like their little remote. So like I realize I'm cynical and old and whatever, like for the like I'm not saying it's wrong that it's free to play with microtransactions. Like they said that they wanted to they want as many people to be able to play it, so they want the controls to be as simple as possible and to be on the platform that everyone plays on. They didn't mean for it to be free to play, but they realized, to do a game of this scale, like people just won't, the market just says it kind of has to be free to play or basically cost nothing, so they didn't have a choice there. So I'm not having a go at them.
I wonder if maybe it would have done well on Apple Arcade, because then it would be free. But probably
I wonder if that would have been viable, like financially.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe you can buy like sparkling aviators for your little cloth man. Microtransaction. I bought the floss. Like.
It's such a shame you don't. There definitely seems to be a type of game, like because we have a lot of crossover, but the fact that it's both Journey and Inside, that's a definite type of game that I obviously warm to much more than you.
Like these indie games are like, I don't know, it just doesn't. I don't know what it is that it just doesn't work on me. Like Journey looks amazing, but so does every game nowadays. Every game looks amazing. Like. To look at something nice, I can tell on any game on my PlayStation and they all look nice.
It's more than just looking nice.
I know, but I don't know. They just don't work on me. And like, I feel like Abzu was the last one that I tried to really give a go. And I was just like, no, this is really boring.
Yeah, no, I didn't gel with Abzu, but Journey was a special kind. Also, it was a bit of a time and place. Like I did a Let's Play of it. It was one of the first, well, I was doing YouTube for a long time before, but I wasn't doing Let's Plays, and that was one of the early Let's Plays that I did. And I think that was kind of just it was a great game to like play through, and so I kind of like that I've got my reaction like restored of my like I was just blown away. Like it was probably a really bad Let's Play because I was probably just quiet and like for a lot of it. But like the bits when like it speeds up and the music actually really builds up and you're sliding down really fast. Like there's so many, like for such a short game, there's so many standout levels. And like when it is all like windy and then it's like the wind's blowing, you got to find your gap to run through. Yeah. And then doing that with someone else and it's like, oh, they've gone and then they wait for me.
Yeah.
Like, they don't need to wait for me, like
stuff
like that.
Yeah.
And then the fact that, oh man, it's great. It's great. I love Journey.
Yeah. Also, your Let's Play is probably the perfect way to watch it, really, because can you imagine someone else doing it? Feel like,
how do you mean?
Like, man, where's the gun? Like,
yeah.
Right, we're just gonna rush through this last bit now, and I'm just gonna sprint through, and I'm not even looking at the ground.
Speed run. Yeah.
Oh, dear. I've lost track of where we are.
So that was my 13. So we need your 12 now.
Okay, this is a good one. I don't know if you love it as much as me, but my number 12, another sequel, is We Love Katamari on the PST.
Is Damacy the first one?
Mm-hmm.
And then
I played We Love Katamari first. I didn't play Damacy till way after. But it was the Katamari games, for anyone that might not know, because this is something that people might not know. You basically play as a little alien and you roll a ball and everything in the room or wherever it is you're rolling will stick to the ball. And then once you get to a certain size, you can pick up things that are bigger and basically so on for infinity.
To an extreme scale, like until you're picking up like solar systems and planets and stuff. The sun, I think, is the last thing you got to pick up, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So We Love Katamari The story
You
of
do?
it is that the story is that everyone loved the first one so much that they begged the little alien guy, the prince, to come back and do it again. So all the characters are like, "Oh, I had so much fun playing Katamari Damacy. Like, please, can you show me how you did it in the game?" And then like you'll do it in their house. And like that's another game where I think we talked about it during the Mr. Driller episode, but like it just flows perfectly. Like the gameplay works perfectly, it looks amazing, and the music is great. And you really get into that kind of state of like, you know, you're just the hours just melt away, and all you're doing is pushing a big ball around. And it has a really weird sense of humor that is like really funny, and it's super polished considering the graphics are like, you know, bad as it were, because they're like people are like 6 polygons, but like it's so stylized that like it still looks amazing.
And it has to be, because like if you think about it, you're like picking up people and animals and stuff. Like if they were realistic and like flailing around like like it would be like a horrific game. Like,
and also
they also like Playmobil, don't they? Like
yeah. And it added a lot of stuff the first one didn't have. So like one standout moment in We Love Katamari is you roll up a circus or something, and like the clown will jump on top of the ball and will be like doing his juggling acts as you're rolling the ball around. And it has like weird themed ones. There's one where you have to roll up a sumo wrestler. I think that's in the second one, and he has to eat. So you roll him over meals, and then to win, you have to roll over his opponent, pick him up, and throw him out. Like,
and other things like pick up things that are hot and things like along those lines.
Yeah, there's one where you have to light different campfires by rolling between the campsites and make sure your ball stays on fire. There's a Formula One where your ball's constantly rolling around the track. It was just cool, and like also a very strange game back in my that era of I only play weird games and I don't like anything mainstream because I'm a moody teenager. So
and the controls are bizarre as well.
Yeah, so it's each analog stick is each hand. So you both forward, you're rolling forward. If you go one up, one down, you're kind of going around a certain way, and then you click
and you
sticks
get a
in
speed
to jump
boost.
Over it. Yeah, you can get up and down to like charge up. It was just another like a lot of these games that I really like from back in the day just had so much content, and you would just get so much for your money. And this is another. We Love Katamari is another game that has like, you know, dozens and dozens of levels and like optional things and like all stuff now that would be DLC. Not to sound like a grumpy old man, but it had like so much cool stuff in it. And the instruction book even was really cool because it was all done in crayon. So it didn't really even tell you anything about the game. It was just like, here's some nice pictures that we've drawn.
What was the Xbox 360 one called?
That was Beautiful Katamari.
Dude, that was, So I streamed that like a couple years ago. I just had a very confused chat for a while.
Yeah. So that was that like a best of where they kind of smashed the first two games together?
Yeah, they had levels from both the first two and then like did up the graphics a bit. Made it HD at least. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
They're good games. Like I think, you know, they're done. They don't need to make any more of them. They re-released it on the Switch and the modern consoles. They made a HD remake.
That might be what I played it on, actually. Yeah, I think I played it on the Switch.
Yeah, they did Katamari Damacy, the first one. They did a remake of that. And I played through it and it was fine, but I did finish it in like 4 hours maybe, which is fine for what it is, but like We Love Katamari, I never finished. So, and I only had like 3 games back then, and it had that much in it that I never finished it.
And like the whole game, like every aspect, like the music, like the menus, the way you select levels, it was all in such a cool, quirky style.
Yeah, and so polished.
Yeah.
Like so when you walk in front of a wall and the camera would have to go behind the wall, it would like do a cutout shape so you could still see what you're doing. And every level had a unique shape. Like there was just that much in it that was like they'd thought of everything.
Yeah, brilliant. Fantastic. Shall I move on to, so that was your number 2, all right? 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. My number 12 is possibly the best-selling game that either of us have mentioned so far. Certainly the biggest franchise by a big margin.
Really? Bigger than Uncharted? Bigger than Metal Gear?
Yeah, much bigger. Much bigger. Do you know what it's bigger than?
What?
Anything else, because it's Pokemon Blue.
Hey!
And Pokemon is the biggest franchise in the world of anything.
Hey, nice. A Pokemon game. Pokemon Blue as well. I thought you were a Gold and Silver man.
No, I never played. So I played I got Pokemon Blue And I was obsessed by it, like to an extreme level. I was obsessed with Pokemon, and I played that game so unbelievably much. Never got gold or silver back in the day. I never even asked for it. I never even considered that I could have it. I was like, I loved it. This is everything I love. It's amazing. And then like, I knew that there was other ones coming out and my friends had them, but I was like, I'd never even asked to have them for some reason. I'm sure I would have. I was just such it was always like back in the day with game consoles. Like I never had a home game console like until like secondary school.
Yeah.
But I never asked for one. I just
you
never
have them now though, right? You have gold and silver on your shelf, don't you?
Yeah, like
that's what I thought. That's why I thought you had them. I thought that's
I bought them like since and played them.
Yeah,
but you know, so and I played them like I played friends' versions of them, but no, it's the original ones. I mean, like so to say like where I was at the time, like I had a Game Boy only. I had a Game Boy Pocket, the black and white Game Boy. No home console, whatever. I had a Mac computer, which like. Yeah, because it has some games on, but not really. So, like, Game Boy was where I played my games, and I had like Alleyway, which is like the little game.
Yeah,
I played Tetris. I had like an F1 game.
Yeah,
and like so I had a few games like that, and then that was like kind of my gaming. There was probably a few other like puzzle games or like I had the camera maybe, and then I got Pokemon, whereas like. A whole world, like 250 monsters, like not levels. You can go where you want. You can collect whichever Pokemon you want to do. You can do things in slightly different orders. And I'm going to go to the shop to buy this. And I need to heal them. So I'm going to go here. And just that freedom and that open world. And like, obviously, that wasn't new. There'd been like Final Fantasy games on NES and stuff before that. But like, that just blew my mind. I was like, this isn't like a game. This is something different. This is like a world which I have. And it's probably the game that solidified my love for gaming. Like that, this one I was like, okay, like this is becoming more of a little hobby that I do to pass time, at the shops while I'm waiting for my mum in the changing rooms, like which is what my Game Boy time was, or in the car. This became like a thing. Like, oh no, I identify as this is a part of me. This is a thing that I love. It was so seminal.
Did you what about the rest of it, like the anime or the cards, Pokemon cards and all that?
Yeah, no, I was fully in. Like for that era, for probably like 3 years, I was fully in on like everything. I had a big Pokemon card collection. We never had like the right TV channels to watch because I think you needed like special TVs to see like Sky or something to see most of them. So I watched the TV show mainly around Friend's house. Until it came to, do you remember like SMTV?
SMTV, yeah, I do. That's what I was thinking of.
But I was a bit older then, I think.
Yeah.
That was probably getting closer to secondary school. But in my peak, which is probably like, like the last 3 years of primary school, like that was my love, like trading Pokemon and battling with friends with the link cable. Like just the depth in that game and the freedom it gave you, like, was crazy that they packed that into like 12 kilobytes or whatever it is.
Yeah. I actually, mine was Pokemon Red. So that's interesting.
That's the one you had. Okay.
Yeah. And then I didn't play another Pokemon till Ruby.
Yeah.
And then I didn't play another one till whatever the new one is, Sword and Shield.
Yeah.
But
no,
like,
I didn't play one, I think X and Y, which is the
3DS?
The 3DS, yeah. I think that was the last 3DS one. That was my gap.
Yeah.
For playing them.
But I remember my brother used to take my Game Boy to school and he'd be like, I'm going to get you some trades. And he used to like go to school and then he would come back with all these new Pokemon. It was always like so exciting. Yeah, that's what he was doing. Where he would like, do you remember the clone trick where you'd like turn your Game Boy off?
Yeah,
so
well, unplug it, and then you'll both get the same one.
Yeah, no,
and the fact that even though it's like a marketing thing, the fact that there was 2 different versions of the game and all of like the urban legends of like, Mewtwo's by this truck by the SS Anne.
Yes, I was about to say that. Wait for the SS Anne to come back, and then you get to go on it again. Yeah,
I actually really remember. So one of my friends who I used to play this with. I remember like so there's a bit on the boat where if you remember like there's the captain's sick and you need to like rub his back and he froze up and then he gives you.
But okay, yeah.
So yeah, then he gives you like a cut which you use to get through hedges. So a very important thing.
Yeah.
And so I had done that, but then my friend was like stuck and he was like, you needed to use cut to get into like a gym. And he was all panicking, saying like, oh, I don't know what to do. And I was like saying to him like, was probably like 9 at the time, said, "Oh, did you like rub his belly so he's like in the boat and stuff?" And I just remember his mum like walking past and like mentioning something about like, "What are you two on about? Like, what is this game? Like, have you rubbed his belly? You know, to get this thing." But he was like really distraught. And it turned out he had done it all, but just hadn't realised. Like, he's probably skipped through all the conversations and didn't realise he got an item or something. But that memory, for some reason, really stands out.
Yeah. Oh, man. Who's your favourite Pokemon?
Squirtle.
Do you know who my favourite Pokemon is?
It's not Squirtle, is it?
It's Wartortle.
Oh, really? Oh,
how weird is that?
You always have to be a bit more indie and cool.
One stronger, one better. Just for some reason, I picked Squirtle as my starter. I always pick the water starters. And I leveled him up to Wartortle, and he was so powerful, I wouldn't let him evolve. Even though Blastoise would probably be better. I was like, no, he's too good.
And then when they have like the little sunglasses on and stuff in like the anime.
Squirtle Squad.
Like,
Squirtle
he's
Squad.
a cheeky, like Bulbasaur's I think is a bit boring. I think people only pick that just because they want to be not picking the one that everyone else does.
Yeah.
And like Charmander is just too like, oh yeah, it's a big dragon, you know, Charizard or just Charmander. It's just like, it's just a good guy. It's sad in the anime when his fire's going to almost go out. I don't know if you remember that in the raid.
Remember that, yeah.
But like Squirtle's like, he's a cheeky chappy and he's here for a laugh. And the little gangs of them roaming the streets. It's great.
Oh, that's amazing. Squirtle and Water. Who would have known, eh? We never...
Yeah.
That's weird.
And obviously I know Yellow's like the better one, but like Blue is the one that out of the blue I got for my birthday one year. And I remember, I mean, I must have been so young. Like I must have been like 7 or 8 when it came out.
I think it came out in 1996, you know. You might not have got it at launch.
No, probably not. But I remember like sitting on my floor and like being the first time I like went around my house at the beginning and spoke to my mum in the game and then went outside and I remember like going to the grass because I'd seen the game. It was at the Irish dancing club I used to go to.
For God's sake. It always comes back to Irish dancing with you.
But there was someone else playing it there and I was watching it and I didn't even know what Pokemon was, of course.
Yeah.
Like, and I saw that they were going through, like, I think they're going for like a chemical plant or something. Looking back now, I can kind of work it out. And things were popping up and there's things on screen and text. And I was like, I have no idea what this was, but I was enthralled by it.
Yeah.
And then when I was playing it, I got to the grass and it was the bit where like Oak comes out and I was like, oh, I'm playing that game. I realized that. But I remember it so well. Like, I remember how sunny it was that day. You know, the people that can recoil like everything, you know, like savants or whatever. Like, for that day, I remember the layout of my room, how I was sitting. Like, it was such like a moment in my life. And I was like,
that's crazy.
I can do it whenever. I've got it in my hands. I can play this whenever I want. I have access to this. I was so amazed by it.
It came out the day after my birthday in 1996.
Okay.
And I think I
probably got it when I was 7 or 8. I'm guessing.
I think I got it maybe the year after, but I remember it was my brother was like, you need to ask for this game for Christmas. And I was just like, okay, because I didn't really know anything about games. I loved it. I do remember accidentally restarting quite a few times on the day I got it. Because obviously when you can only have one save file, and being a kid, just like, I'm like, why is it the beginning again? Like, I want to put my name in again.
So, I kept my original save. So I ended up, I had like a hacked Game Boy thing with all of the Pokemon games. So I played multiple times and different versions and stuff. But my original one, I never restarted. And they recently all just died. The battery went. And now they're all gone. So my original Blastoise.
Home.
Oh, I know. I went to, it was, I went to do a video because I found out recently that, you know, that cut move I said about to go through hedges, you can use it to cut the grass, you know, the long grass, so you don't get like random things. And I know that blew my mind. So I was going to do a video about that, telling everyone. Exactly, right?
Have you confirmed that though?
Yeah. It's true. And so I just went to get it out to record the footage, and I realized all my Pokemon were dead. The battery had gone.
How much does it cut?
It's at least like a 4 or maybe 6. Like you cut down a chunk of the long grass using the cut
God,
HM.
there's going to be a lot of people.
I know.
If they've watched this far, it will be very impressed with that.
Yeah, leave in the comments down below if that has blown your mind.
Wow. I mean, I always think with these new Pokemon games, like, oh, this will be the one I'm going to get into. But like nowadays, it's just too slow, especially after Arceus. Like, because Arceus rolls in all the experience and move learning into like its own thing. You don't do it at the end of every fight, basically. Like, you know, back in the day, you'd get 6 text boxes. Pikachu's got 15 XP, blah, 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 blah. And then it'll be like,
oh, yeah.
Do you want to learn a new move? Yeah. Which one do you want to forget? Like, this move, he's forgetting the move. He's learned it. And it's just like, oh my God. Whereas like Arceus got rid of all that. So that I found that one a lot easier. But yeah, I can't play them anymore. I don't like killing Pokemon trying to capture either. That's really annoying.
What I think the problem is I think they're trying to make, I mean, I say problem, like they sell like
yeah,
they keep doing what you're doing, Game Freak. Like you're making the money, like, but for the problem for me, for why I don't get into it, is I think they're almost trying to make it too much for me. Like
what do you mean?
It's all like but I think they're not changing stuff for like the nostalgia. They're keeping all these same sound effects and stuff, and like for multiple generations as well. There's because they haven't changed it. People that started playing on the DS or the 3DS, they're now getting nostalgia, and I feel like there's so much baked in that they don't want to change because they're playing that nostalgia game. Whereas I want like make the most modern make the game that like my child me couldn't dream of back in the day for what a Pokemon game could be like. Like I don't need to keep harkening back to that. That was a special time of my life. I go back and replay Pokemon Blue probably about every 3 years just to get that little fix of nostalgia. Wow. Like I can keep doing that.
Yeah.
Like I want to see what like the dream Pokemon could be. I want a proper behind the camera. I'm in this like amazing world, and like I want to go into like buildings and like Pokemon are just working and stacking shelves and stuff. That's what I want to play.
So you want Pokemon Legends Arceus then, and you didn't buy it?
Nah, that's not what I want. I want to go around like a Pokemon. So I want closer to what Pokemon Detective did in terms of its setting, where it's just like a normal city, but the Pokemon are just part of the world and have jobs, and like the Growlithe's the police force and stuff. Like I want a Pokemon game like that.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I don't want it on Switch. I want it on like Xbox or something.
Yeah, something that can actually run it.
Yeah.
Okay, so should I do my number 11?
Yeah, sorry for going so long on that one.
No, that's good. I feel like this one will be short. So
okay.
So my number 11 is, it might surprise you, it's actually Puyo Puyo Tetris on the Switch.
Okay.
So this is how I got into competitive Tetris. This was my entryway. And this game took over my life for like 6 months. And it remains to be the best way to play Tetris now. Like, even though Tetris Effect is out, it's still like the fact that it's handheld, it's portable, and as my brother put, Tetris Effect is like playing Tetris, but you can't see what's happening. Like the fact that Puyo Puyo Tetris is so clear, it's like just the best version of Tetris, and I had to include one on this list. So,
just to clarify, playing Tetris isn't your job, because you really made it sound like
did I?
You're like, this is what got me into like doing professional Tetris.
Oh no, competitive Tetris, yeah. So
competitive, yeah. Well, makes it sound like you're like, this is what began my career.
Do you know what? There was a point in my life where I treated it like a job. Like every night, 3 or 4 hours, I would play Tetris Online, and that was the only game I played. I mean, what's more to be said on probably the most perfect game ever made. This is just the best version of it available at the moment. I do have Tetris DS as well, which is also really good, but the Switch, the screen's bigger in it. So.
I bought this because of you. You told me to buy this.
Yeah.
I got this on my Switch.
What do you think?
Yeah, I like Tetris. Like, I mean, but like, I have no passion for it. I mean, my favorite Tetris is Effect. Is my favorite one. I'm really bad at Tetris. I've just not played it enough to get good. That's all it is. Like I've not learned it enough. I did have a those like games where it's like the little screen where it's just like lighting up different blocks, like Tetris game, like the little handheld thing to the rubbery buttons that like feel horrible and mushy. I did have that, and that's probably where I've played most Tetris, like a keychain. Basically,
my mum had one of those when we were growing up. 99 games in one. It was like
this was a pure Tetris. It was all right. It wasn't it was the buttons were a bit rubbish, but it was actually a playable version. I also had a Yahtzee, one of them, which I never really understood how to play Yahtzee.
I also I bought Puyo Tetris 2, but I do just go back to the first one because it's just a bit simpler. Like it didn't need the second one's got like RPG mechanics. It's just like no.
So why is this above Effect?
It's much quicker to play and it's much easier to see. And I much prefer the Switch controller. Like the little buttons are easier to play Tetris Effect than the whatever I've got it on Xbox. Okay. And then also if you want to do a marathon mode, I can tell you exactly where it is on Puyo Puyo Tetris, you just press the R button when the game starts. I don't even know where it is on Tetris Effect. Tetris Effect is cool, and it had like fun things to do in it, like master mode and stuff like that, but I actually just prefer standard Tetris. So
yeah,
banger. There you go.
Yeah, Tetris probably, like, I think if you know, a lot of lists of like top 100 games of all time, it's rare to not see at least top 10 Tetris. I do feel like people say Tetris, say, oh, it's like the perfect game or whatever. I always feel that's a bit weird, seeing as how many iterations there are, and like in terms of gameplay, like can you spin it in place? Can you slide it under? Like, I feel like it's, to say the perfect, I feel like it needs to like have got all of that perfect first time, but I feel like they've evolved it, and some people have stopped at different points to what point do they like it. So I don't, it's hard to say it's a perfect game, but the pure, like, make a row of blocks, make it disappear, even like for a casual gamer who's not thinking about, you know, doing 4 in a row and just clearing lines, is just such a satisfying, pure thing, and satisfying to understand. Like, yeah, it is great.
So there's like official rules. So like the official Tetris, it's basically what you expect. The hold, you know, you can swap a brick. That's in the official rules, they have that. And the rotating, spinning on top of the stack is 16 times. That's kind of, so I kind of see that.
But
as,
none of that's in original Tetris.
No. But in terms of the like hundreds of iterations of the game, I kind of feel like the Game Boy version is there and the NES version are the same. Then you have this new Tetris Championship. They're kind of the two versions. The rest of them, I don't think they could probably hold a candle to this.
And it's cool, there's been like, for like competitive Tetris, there's been like recent evolutions of technique in terms of the way you like hold and manipulate the controller, like the technique where you're like
tapping on the back of it.
Tapping the back to like spin like extra, because the speed that they're playing at is ridiculous. There's
also
that top level.
A good documentary on Championship Tetris called Ecstasy of Order. That's also like, if you've seen King of Kong, have you seen that? The guy playing Donkey Kong. It's the same sort of thing, but it's for Tetris. That's really good.
I mean, has it got an equivalent of Billy Mitchell?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It does have a really good moment in it, though, where a woman, so on the NES version, A would rotate the brick one way and B rotates it the other way. And during the documentary, she's one of the best players ever. They tell her that the B button rotates it the other way. And she's like, what? Like, she doesn't know that she can do that.
Do you do both ways? I feel like a lot of people do just one way.
No, because what I do, I look at it next, and then I think in my head, okay, that's 3 rotations to get where I need it, and I just count. I don't bother going back the other way unless it's a tease. Like, you can snap blocks into places. Like, I can do that, but otherwise I just use clockwise. But yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Puyo Puyo, was it Puyo Puyo versus Tetris?
No, just Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Puyo Puyo Tetris. Right. Okay. So final one of the list. Thank you everyone for sticking with us so far. We won't chat about this one for too long because it's The Last of Us Part 2.
Hey, nice. So you're not having the sequels? You haven't got the first one on there at all?
No, I had to make it. This is one of the reasons why I decided, because that is one they would probably both be next to each other. This is obviously the one that I rate higher, Part 2.
And it's an 11.
Yeah, narrowly missed out on top 10. It was in the top 10 at one point, but it got knocked down.
And isn't it second on our list?
Yeah, but that's our joint list.
No, so I wonder how many more of your top 10 will have the list in.
Yeah, there's some good games coming up in my top 10. I'm telling you, you got something to look forward to. Yeah, we won't talk too much of it. So we've done a whole podcast on The Last of Us Part 2. It's like 2 hours long. We don't need to go into why it's great. I guess if you want to hear us say why it's great, we basically talk about that for 2 hours with Sam in the podcast. So go listen to that. And I'm assuming it's probably going to pop up at some point again soon in one of these next couple of videos. Is very likely.
Maybe.
Is there anything else you want to quickly add?
Not really, other than, it is just very, very high quality. I'm surprised that it's at 11 for you. I thought it would be top 5. But
yeah, so am I. I'm surprised, like, when I was making the list, but then thinking about, like, I think about like personal connections. I don't feel like I have like a strong personal, like I have much more of an appreciation and enjoyment for it than like a love for it. Like, say Pokemon Blue is like the level of love for a game. That's probably number one.
Yeah.
But I just got to be realistic and just say like, yeah, Last of Us Part 2 has to go above it, which is why it's so weird to judge these things and why I literally have changed this list probably like 50 times in the last month.
Well, yeah, I mean, talk about judging it. We've just talked about Tetris next to The Last of Us Part 2. Like, games are just so...
And neither of us are even surprised by that. Like, that's like, yeah.
Games are just so varied and mental, aren't they? Like, there's so much. There's like I was showing Bryony, like, she doesn't play games really ever in her life. She played like Crash Bandicoot as a kid, maybe a couple of times. And like, she came around and I was like, oh yeah, let's play we're playing It Takes Two. And then we played something else. And she was like, God, there really is a game for everything, isn't there? And I was like, yeah. There really is like much variety.
There's probably 5, and probably one of them's a masterpiece. Like about now, like
yeah.
Very true. I guess the only thing I will say is just because obviously you had Uncharted 2 on your list, like I don't. Like I'll say this is the Naughty Dog game that made it onto my list. This is my favorite in terms of Naughty Dog games. This is number one there, I guess, is a thing of note for the fact that it's here at 11. But apart from that is our so we've now gone 20 to 11. So the next video we'll be doing 10 to 6. And of course the big 5 to 1 as well. Hopefully you have been enjoying these and will continue to do so. Of course, any comments you want to make about our selections, do any of these match up with some of your favorite games? If you want to share your favorite games, we read every single comment on the channel. Luckily, we're small enough that we can still do that. So if you write it, please be nice. We will at least read it, even if we can't reply to all of them. And there's not many channels that can guarantee that.
Yeah. Cool. I hope you've listened along. Like, my face is hurting from smiling so much. I feel like my 20 to 10 is a real nostalgia, and yours is kind of nostalgia. I'm assuming your 10 down is your 10 down will be a lot more modern. Mine is, so.
Yeah. Most of the top 10 are within the last 10 years, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm literally like buzzing. This has been great. This is a good idea.
Yeah. This has been so much fun. But yeah, that's the end of this one here. Of course, when the next one's up, it will be linked down in the description. If you're watching this when it hasn't come out, there's a chance it might already be there. Then what are you waiting for? You've got another spare hour, don't you? But yeah, apart from that, cheers for watching or listening. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.